The story and ending of Final Fantasy 15 and who is Ardyn Izunia? What's good, my fellow peasants? How you all doing? Now this is a question that is massively being thrown around the internet. It's created 50-page long forum threads with people discussing it. There's been back and forth, there's been debates, there's been arguments. I've even seen a couple of YouTube videos that attempted to explain the story and they weren't very detailed and just left more questions than they really answered. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a good old willy whack and I'm going to do my absolute best to explain and break down for anyone who's confused exactly who is Lucius Caelum, who is Ardyn, who is Izunia, who is Gentiana. Buckle up, you're going to need a seatbelt. Let's go. So the story begins, as many good stories do, hundreds of years ago when a man named Ardyn Lucius Caelum was gifted by the gods with an ability to save mankind. Now let's stop there. How do we know he was gifted this ability by the gods? How did he become the saviour of Lucius? What was special about Ardyn? Well, we know it was him because if we go to the Cosmogony book, Ardyn is the first king on this book. Proof of that? Well, we know that the six gods of Eos, aka the Summons, Shiva, Ifrit, Rama, Bahamut, Titan and Leviathan, they wanted to save, or at least 5 of those 6, wanted to save mankind from the Star Scourge. The key 2 gods in this were Shiva and Bahamut, Shiva being in the background, who we now know, and it feels so good to say this, is Gentiana. She is the oracle in this picture, the first one, or the one in disguise as an oracle and a messenger of gods. And that's the thing with Shiva / Gentiana, is most of the game, as she was being portrayed as a messenger, she was in disguise the entire time. She was actually one of the gods of Eos. Bahamut is the winged figure here. Now how do we know all of this? How do we know this is Ardyn, that is Gentiana for certain beside the flowers? We know that because if we go to the train cart scene where Gentiana first showed up in her form of Shiva, remember what happened? She walked past Ardyn and just before she froze him, Ardyn said, that's the same face you were wearing on the day, and then he got cut off. That face that he's talking about and that day he's talking about is the day that they gifted him with the power to heal the Scourge. And look at the eyes shut. That is why Gentiana spent a huge portion of the game with her eyes closed. It was a great whopping finger point at the Oracle on the Cosmogony book. Ardyn, with his newfound powers, he goes off, he does his thing, he helps people and he genuinely saves lives. That's why he gets the nickname Saviour of Lucius, but also, like any good story, things take a turn for the worst. A king who has not yet been appointed by the crystal, he becomes jealous. Ardyn, he gains a reputation similar to Luna Freya, loved by all, and this king who doesn't have the power of the crystal and its blessing, he becomes jealous and he ostracizes Ardyn. But jealousy was just one theory, one thing that was referenced. The other possibility is that the first king did it out of what he thought was the best thing to do. Ardyn, when he was healing people and absorbing the Star Scourge that was turning them into monsters, he himself was absorbing demons, and that was twisting his mind, corrupting his soul, and when he's healed so many people that he becomes too corrupt, even the gods who Ardyn was once blessed by turn their back on him. Now I need to stop here in the middle of the story because this person who betrayed Ardyn, this king, there's been a lot of speculation about it. So Ardyn Lucius Caelum, there's theories that he is Noctis's great grandfather. Of course they both share the name Lucius Caelum. Now the reason this is in contention whether Ardyn and Noctis are actually related is because Noctis's name, Lucius Caelum, is actually in contention. There's a lot of speculation that Noctis's true name is Noctis Izunia, and the reason for that is when Ardyn put Noctis in the crystal, or the crystal absorbed Noctis in, and he was the chosen, that's why the crystal's light didn't harm him. Because Izunia is the name of the man who betrayed Ardyn, went on to take on the throne of Lucius, and that is where Noctis's bloodline came from. So there's 2 theories. When Ardyn said to Noctis, guess who Izunia was? Izunia, it could actually be a first name or a surname. There's absolutely no way of us knowing, but depending on which it is, makes a world of difference, and I'm just going to cover what it means with each option. Which is the most likely? Which one do I think it is? If the first king who betrayed Ardyn was, let's say, Dave Izunia. I'll just make up a random first name. Dave confirmed as first. I'll also use this Lucii just as a representation. This might not be the first one. But let's say it was Dave Izunia. That means that they stole the name. Noctis' family, Noctis' ancestors, they stole the name of Lucius Caelum. They were actually the Izunias, and the reason this makes a whole lot of sense, this theory, the supporting evidence for this, is Noctis is the only person to ever have been chosen by the crystal. All of Noctis' previous ancestors were rejected, so that kind of does imply that they were phonies, that they were fakes, that they weren't entitled to the crystal's power, and that would make a whole lot of sense if they were the Izunia family and they stole the Lucius Caelum name wrongfully. And perhaps it's taken 13 generations for them to prove themselves worthy again. Noctis is the only one since then. The other thing that makes a lot of sense with this is taking the name Lucius Caelum would have been going off of the reputation of the name. It would have generated quite a fame back then. It would have been just like Luna Freya now. Ardyn was a famed healer, a saviour. So if someone was looking to steal the throne, if the Izunias wanted to usurp the throne and they betrayed Ardyn for that, taking his name and using his reputation to bolster their name, their influence, their reputation, and pretty much their legitimacy. Taking the name of Lucius Caelum would have really done that for them. So Noctis being Noctis Izunia is really possible. The other option is that it was a first name. So the one who betrayed Ardyn was Izunia Lucius Caelum. Now this is the option I'm actually more leaning towards, despite the general consensus being the other one from the forums that I've gone through. The reason I think this is more likely is because it makes it so much darker. That means that Ardyn's betrayer was actually related to him. He was a genuine Lucius Caelum, and so was Izunia. He was also a Lucius Caelum. It could have been a brother, it could have been a son, it could have been a cousin, a nephew, someone who was close to Ardyn, which of course makes the betrayal all the worse and could really go a long way to explain just why Ardyn has become as dark and hateful and vengeful as he has. The other reason this could be quite likely is if we go to the cosmogony book, Ardyn used to be a black-haired man. He didn't always have that purplish hue to his hair, and that is pretty symbolic of the Lucius household. Noctis' hair is black, Regis' hair was black. Even if we go back further to someone like Morris, who we've seen pictures of, his hair was black. So he definitely could bear the resemblance back when he was still a mortal and a normal looking man. The reason this holds up a bit more is that means that a double name flip didn't happen. Because Ardyn flipped his name to Izunia, he took on basically his enemy's name, the person he was most vengeful and bitter against, the one who betrayed him. So Ardyn took on the name of Izunia, and Izunia took on the name of Lucius Caelum. I hope I've explained that well enough. I know it's pretty crazy. Ardyn was either betrayed by his own bloodline and he's now trying to wipe out his own family line, or he's trying to wipe out a line of imposters who stole his name. But regardless, the 5 of the 6 gods of Eos, they decide to back this new union, and they basically create 2 households. One is the Lucius Caelum household, who are charged with protecting Crystal, and the other one are the Florets, who more or less get re-gifted with Ardyn's power, the gift to absorb the Star Scourge out of other human beings to heal them. We saw Luna Freya did that, she can heal people, commune with the gods, and it seems the Floret family, they were the ones who were gifted it, mostly by Shiva, Gentiana. I believe strongly that Gentiana, what she brings to the table is the ability to heal the Star Scourge. That's why she was there when Ardyn accepted the crystal, that's why Ardyn spoke about you're wearing the same face you wore that day. I think when he's saying that, he's referring to the day you gave me my powers to heal. And Gentiana gives those same powers to the Floret family, and I think that she gives them a few extra quirks. Not only does she guide them and acts as a communicator for them, and the reason I believe it was Gentiana mostly responsible for gifting the powers of the Oracle to the Floret family is because she also gave them a bit of an extra boost. She gave them the ability to be fireproof. No one else but Shiva could give them that power. Remember? Let's go back to Kingsglaive. That explains perfectly why Luna and Ravis' mother, when she jumped in front of the flamethrower, she didn't burn. This is getting juicy. Right, let's continue. I'm enjoying this. I really enjoyed this story. Let's carry on. Hundreds of years passed, and Ardyn, who is pretty much the manifestation of the Plague of the Stars, Star Scourge, he pretty much has all of it in him. He decides to use that. He waits and bides his time for a moment when a chosen one comes along. That is Noctis, someone who is chosen by the crystal, and he waits for them because that's how Ardyn can exact his revenge. The time comes and Ardyn uses his knowledge and power over demons to boost the Magitech. They were made from demons, the demons that if they were brought in Kingsglaive, they were demons. And why Iodolus wasn't terribly fond of demons and kind of didn't want to use it, but in his greed for power and lust, he allows Ardyn to manipulate him, he gives in, and this is where Ardyn's game begins. He sends Noctis on a goose chase going around fighting the gods who once betrayed him. He wants them dead. He wants them absorbed into Noctis' arsenal. He also wants his ancestors absorbed in the arsenal. Ardyn wants the ring to be complete, and when we go to Bahamut, that's exactly what was happening. The ring was pretty much charging, and it took 10 years to do that for the ring to fully have all of the light of the crystal in it. Now Noctis and Corleonis and everyone else and Gentiana, they also want that because it's only by Noctis becoming the true king can he completely once and for all eliminate demons from the world. Ardyn more or less doesn't give a shit about whether demons are or aren't in the world. Ardyn's one and only goal really is vengeance. The one person, and I'm finally going to get on to why I keep referring to only 5 of the 6, the one person who doesn't want the Star Scourge to disappear and who actually brought it was Ifrit the Betrayer. Ifrit turns his back and betrays the other 5 of the 6 gods of Eos, and the reason for that is his opinion of mankind is pretty much as low as it gets. He wants them all to be turned into demons, he wants the world to fall into darkness, ruin, and he wants it to burn. Ifrit is a total dick, and we know this because and that he created the Star Scourge and the Plague of the Star because Ardyn, he's the manifestation of it. If Ardyn dies, the Star Scourge pretty much goes with it, so Ifrit needed Ardyn protecting, and that's precisely why when Ardyn at the Citadel was leaving, Ifrit came and backed him up and fought against Noctis. That's why Ifrit wasn't on the Genesis poster. Look, we've got 5 of the 6 gods here. Ifrit isn't there because he's fallen, he's corrupted, and must I repeat, he's a total dick. And I'm going to explain the rest of the story at another point, but it continues on. Pretty much everyone in Niflheim becomes a demon. We know Ravus becomes one, Iodolus becomes one. They were even kidnapping people to turn them into demons / Magitech, they're one and the same thing, to bolster their forces. Not only were they kidnapping people, they were even growing them in pretty much in lab conditions. The official name for these homegrown people ready to become demons is MTs, and one of the big reveals in this game was that Prompto was one of them, and all MTs, they were given the access codes to the bases, to the areas, and that's precisely how Prompto gained them access. He's kind of like Vivi, or kind of, I suppose, a bit cloudish. I mean, he's kind of unique exactly what Prompto is, but the brothers accepted him immediately even after they found out, so all was good in the hood. And finishing this tale and this video, Ardyn, he was holding Noctis' hand around the world solely for the reason that Noctis could ascend, become the true king of light. As his ancestors were a part of the crystal, that also meant absorbing them, hence why we saw the Knights of the Round going into the ring. And it was only with the full power of the light and his ancestors that Noctis was capable of destroying the Star Scourge once and for all, which meant destroying Ardyn. That's also why Ardyn got absorbed into the ring. It was also that the Accursed, which is the nickname that Ardyn had gained from the gods of Eos. Problem is, it had grown so powerful that the only way to destroy that much darkness and completely banish the demons from Eos once and for all and bring peace and bring back the dawn, it required a sacrifice from the chosen one. And that was Noctis. Cue super sad ending, cue peasants tears. I'm going to do another video talking about exactly who did and didn't die. There are some arguments over whether Noctis is really dead, whether Luna and Noctis were truly in the afterlife at the end. I was just saying now, my theories on that came through as well when they went to sleep on the throne. I said that Selene and Endymion, they can only be together when they sleep. And then they went to sleep on the throne, but that's all for another time. There's also debates on whether Ignis, Prompto and Gladiolus survived. I'll talk about that another time. But the last thing I want to finish off on was Ardyn was such a dope villain. I am still reeling from the impact he's left on me. I want to let the dust lie, because right now I just want to come out and straight away say that Ardyn might be my favourite video game villain of all time. But I know I'm fresh from the hype, so hopefully it won't change and Ardyn will remain my favourite. We'll see how it goes. Ardyn was so dope. He was sly, he was malevolent, he was suave, he had powers just as I theorised he might, kind of like other Final Fantasy villains that we've had. He could twist fabrics of time and manipulate them to freeze it, just like Ultimercia. He tangled with Noctis in the dopest way possible. He's probably just as powerful as Sephiroth. He had control over a host of demons from the void, X-Death eat your heart out. His story was as tragic as Kuja's and more. He could even do shape-shifting mind tricks like Kefka, and while we're on Kefka as well, Kefka, we always say that he was pretty much one of the only villains who achieved his goal. He ascended to god status. Well, not anymore. We have Ardyn, Lucius Caelum. As surprising as this sounds, guys, he achieved his goal. Although Noctis beat him, he didn't beat the end result that Ardyn wanted. Ardyn's one and only motivation was vengeance. Vengeance against the Azunias, who were imposters, or whether they are Lucius Caelums. He just wanted vengeance for the ones who had betrayed him. And that's exactly what he got. Noctis had to sacrifice himself and his entire ancestral bloodline in order to beat Ardyn. Either way, he got what he wanted. He got his vengeance. Pretty much the only one who wanted the world covered in demons was Ifrit. Ifrit, the major cock, he's the only one who lost out. Ardyn was a dope villain. This is my explanation. What do you think? Is there anything I've missed? Anything you want to add on to? And the biggest question of all that I'd like you all to contribute to the comment section below, because this is a huge one. Do you think it is Noctis Lucius Caelum or Noctis Izunia? Do you think Ardyn wanted to exact vengeance on his own family bloodline, or a family who had stolen his name? There it is, guys. Oh wow, such a juicy story to get into. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Go over to Full Fantasy Peasants, subscribe Arena if you want to check out my playthrough videos. Shout out to any new Final Fantasy Peasants who have subscribed as of late. How you all doing? And hit me up on Patreon if you want to be in for a chance of winning some good shit in about a week now. About a week. I always do giveaways every 2 weeks. If you want to be in on it, head over to Patreon. All of your support is so appreciated. And if there's any other aspect of Final Fantasy 15 that left you baffled and you want me to cover, I am but your humble peasantly servant. Let me know and I'll see if I can do a video on it for you. Until the next video, cool out.
Drop. If I ain't got a weapon, I'ma pick up a rock.